to the RunnerX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Welcome back to the RunnerX podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Coach Valerie, as we come out of, we're in March now. Sometimes in some areas of our world, it is sunny. In some areas of our world, it's still cold. Maybe it's rainy because we're in that time of year. And a lot of us like to run on the treadmill. What is the difference if I'm going to go run outside versus run on the treadmill?
Okay, that's a great question. So the gait cycle itself, this is a really good way to explain it, is 3 elements outside, pose, fall, pull, because we want to use gravity to accelerate. So when we're outside, the way to move forward is to let yourself fall forward or backwards or sideways, either direction. When we're inside on a treadmill, the belt's going to move. So we're actually standing still and the belt is moving, right? So we're keeping up with a moving belt. So inside on a treadmill, the gait cycle is pose, pull. And the fun part, I tell people, the best part about running on a treadmill is you really get so strong on holding your upper body. Again, there's no room to move. You're literally in that same hold. That being said, because you are on a machine, you're going to work a little bit harder. You're going to use a little bit more active muscle contraction than you would outside, simply because of, again, you are stationary on a treadmill. It's much harder to offset your body weight on a treadmill than outside. Unless you have, guys, one of those curved treadmills where you actually can offset your body weight, and those are fun too. It's still a machine, right? You're still keeping up with a belt, but that's the main difference is inside on a treadmill, I'm having to really work a little bit harder to hold my self in place and pull. So a little bit more hamstring work, probably a little bit more active muscle. And then outside I can fall. So I'm going to have less muscular effort outside, but both of them are still the same running.
It's amazing to me because before I met you and when I was training for marathons, I had a friend at work. He was actually my boss, and he would run on the treadmill and I would run outside. We both live in Texas. So I'd be like, well, let's go outside. And he's like, oh, it's too hot or it's too whatever. So we would kind of keep track of each other, right? And I might run 5 or 6 miles outside where he'd run 5 or 6 miles on the treadmill. And I remember my thoughts at the time, before understanding the gait cycle and before understanding how gravity affects, I had it totally wrong. I used to tell him, oh, well, you have it easier because the work is all being done by the treadmill. I have to take on gravity and I have to push off and move and I have to deal with wind and all this stuff around me. You've got it so much easier. And now as you're describing it, no, it makes total sense that actually, had I been running correctly, I had it easier, right? I had gravity working on my behalf where he didn't. And it was just so fun. It's funny to see how the shift and what I thought was made the treadmill easier versus what made my, it's just amazing when you really think about it, how warped that was. How
well,
incorrect
but also
that was.
like, and again, let's go into like conversation. Even when people say like, it's a running joke, people will say I did the treadmill.
The treadmill.
I had to do the treadmill. So then, it's also, most of us that run would much prefer to run and not be on a treadmill. So then it always kind of got that, it got that reputation, if you will, I think. And then the other thing is that for those of us like me, which I rarely run on a treadmill, they're just hard for me just because I'm not good at it. Like I'm not, just staying on the treadmill, focusing to stay on it. So I do believe it's just a different effort level. But like I said, they both have really good benefits, and the treadmill is definitely going to be your best friend if you can't get outside, right?
Okay, but what if I don't have a treadmill? What if I don't own one? I don't have a gym, or I'm not near a gym. I live out in the country. What do I do then? What if I don't have a treadmill and it's snowy and I can't really run outside? Do I just take the time off?
Well, no, absolutely not. Well, here's the best thing with what we've got with RunRx, when you cannot get on a treadmill and I cannot get outside, I literally have to stay inside. This is when you do indoor running skill strength combo workouts. And I tell you what, it's also how I tell people to start running and learn to run. It's in our reboot. And what the best thing about running, once you so imagine if running on a treadmill is also, exercise, if you will, beneficial to me, so is stationary exercise that involves the movement of running. And that's what's so cool with kind of what we do. So working on pulls, working on your falling, working on your pose can all actually be integrated with strength exercises that use like similar movements. So you're moving, and you might do like plank pulls, you might do standing pulls. We love to do set up a band. You can just hook up a band somewhere and you can do a full workout, still getting your heart rate up. Real quick, I always see like, hey, runners can't get outside. Why don't you jump rope for 30 minutes? Have you ever tried jump roping for 30 minutes?
I like the idea of jump roping, but not for 30 minutes.
Well, but also like, think about it. How many of you guys out there, let's be real, can just jump rope for 30 minutes? Almost no one. I mean, it's really challenging and it's jumping and high impact. So not that I don't love jump roping, but if you would break down the movement so you're not just pounding, on your joints, but breaking it up to what you're still working on the skill of running and you're still getting your heart rate up, I promise you, when you get back outside to run, you'll still have a really great level of fitness.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question, because that's what always happens is we have people that come back in and go, oh, but if I'm not running, and I say that with air quotes, meaning going out and doing miles outside, then I'm going to lose my fitness. I'm not going to be able to be ready for my race, or I'm not going to be ready for whatever. And what you're saying is, no, that's absolutely false.
Right. And, the thing is like, we're assuming most of you guys, when you're, again, we had just during the pandemic when people couldn't get outside at all. And you saw videos of people like running in circles around their apartment. We are so like, I get it. Like I'm the same way. I don't want to be stuck. And I just, what's so neat is if you start to really work with your body and understand that running is the same movement repeated over and over and over. So think about it. If I keep working on how to be better at that movement, I'm just going to be better at running. And there's ways to work on the movement where you also get the heart rate up a little bit more interval style. Mm-hmm. Then you'll realize, okay, I'm still getting my heart rate up. I'm still working on my running. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think we had a member, she described it as like being in a ball, like, or, you know what I mean? Being in a circle. I love that this little sphere that she's in when she's trying to run and fall. And I thought that was if you think about it, if I only need that little sphere, then why do I need a whole track? I can do that in my dining room. I can do that in my garage.
Well, it kind of also real quick. I mean, again, guys, we're talking about you can't get out. We understand that. Ultimately, we want you to be out running or on your treadmill. So this is just, what can I do so I don't feel like I'm missing my run? Because we understand that panic. We know that feeling. So what we're saying is that we can help you with, again, learning on that. You're right. That sphere of movement. Like, well, I mean, it's like people that ride stationary bikes. They're perfectly fine sitting in one place and pedaling. So, and then hopefully if you're training for a triathlon or something, you think, well, I've been doing all this pedaling inside. When I go outside, I should be able to pedal. So it's a very similar thought, except if I don't have a treadmill, I wanted you to understand that working on the action of running and the movement of running and strengthening your legs with pulling and all that kind of stuff is just going to make you better for running outside.
That's a fantastic analogy, guys. So hopefully if you are in a position where for whatever reason you're not near a treadmill or you can't get outside, you can't get your running in, you can go through our 30-day reboot. We have tons of drills and skills and self-care and strength training workouts to help you until you can get back out there, but you won't lose your fitness. That's the key.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRx podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.